Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's the Technology for Good show. It's Friday, 27th of February, 2015, and welcome to episode 50. We're half a century, Chris.
Yes! That's awesome, isn't it? Who would have thought I would have been here in episode 50?
Thanks for joining me. Do you want to say a quick word about yourself?
Yeah, hi, Chris
I'd like to say a quick couple of words. Hey, fucking, I'm feeling generous.
Oh, okay. Semi-regular co-host Chris Kernahan, an SAP mentor, and yeah, just a general tech lover. So thank you very much for having me back, Tom.
No problem. Thanks for joining us, Chris. Myself, Tom Raftery, Red Monk, technology analyst, and we are going to start into the stories. We have a load of stories to cover today.
Yep.
So the first one that I saw, and typical with the way the show operates, we are going to do a one bad look story or one bad news story as opposed to bad look, I guess, climate related, and then break into the good news stories. So we'll start with the bad news. And so the first story from the bad news side of the house is, and climate related, is this one coming from NASA. It's actually on the Science Daily website. Mm-hmm. The links are there on the event page. And basically what this says, and there's a nice little summary at the top there people can read, it says, while the eastern 2/3 of the US have been frozen for the last couple of weeks, actually the western third of the US is warmer than normal temperatures for the last 2 months. And there's infrared data from NASA provided showing a look at the surface temperature extremes from west to east. So you can see here in this picture, in this kind of orange and red area, which is over Mexico and south central and western US, you've got this kind of big orange area. And then as you kind of go up north into kind of Minneapolis and eastern Washington and those kind of areas, it starts to get more blue, a bit more green, and then a big band of blue across the eastern US. And basically that's all down to the jet stream, which normally is in a band across the top of North America, along the Canadian border pretty much, or even going north of that, which keeps the cold air trapped in the north. But because of climate change, that jet stream has dipped down south, down almost as far as Florida. You can see it down here. So that's kind of frigid air across the eastern US, and then the warmer air is trapped and can't mix with the colder air, and warming the southwest of the US. So just basically, that's saying, the climate is changing, and it's we all know it as a result of what we've been up to, or what man has been doing to the climate for the last 100 years,
exactly,
at the very least.
Yeah. It's funny on the diagram there because half of Texas has no data. But I mean, there are two things about that I find fascinating, and perhaps you can articulate it for me. They're talking about surface temperatures and not air temperatures.
Yep.
So surface temperatures obviously are not as variable over short-term periods of time as air temperatures, and then water temperatures again are even less variable over time. So I think it's important to note that you may go out and it may be chilly today, but they're actually looking at surface temperatures which are steadier over sort of medium-term measurements.
Yep.
Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, no, it is. It is, and it's. I mean, this is obviously a snapshot image. This one here, but what they say in the article itself is that while this is a single snapshot image, that it's pretty indicative of what's been going on for the last 2 months, which it's and they also reference in the article the fact that this is not dissimilar to what happened last year, so this could start to become a trend.
Yeah.
I was in Las Vegas during the week, as you know, at an IBM event.
Yes.
And talking to some of the people who were at the event who had come in from, Boston or Massachusetts. Melinda Ballou, who's an analyst who was there, said she had to dig her way out
wow.
of her driveway, and the snow was above her head.
Jesus.
To get to the airport for the event. I mean,
wow.
It was just insane. Just insane. So,
I
mean, being Irish and being based in South Spain now, I've no concept of that level of snow.
No.
The most snow I've ever come across anywhere I've lived has been in Cork, and what that's like. It's 2-3 inches most ever. Actually, I lived in Portlaoise in the centre of Ireland for 2 years, so we might have got 3 or 4 inches there on a particularly severe Sunday afternoon, which was gone by the following Monday morning.
Yeah. You would have missed it actually during the week, but Texas has had an unseasonable cold snap, and they, for a bit of a laugh, the state police issued an arrest warrant for Princess Elise from Frozen. Is it? So I thankfully Anna is not old enough to know about Frozen or anything like that. But it's Anna and I can't remember the other one.
I don't know.
So it's somebody in the tweet stream will put us right. But yeah, they issued an arrest warrant for the princess from Frozen, which I thought was hilarious.
Brilliant. That's very cool. In the tweet stream, by the way, yes. Susan Keohane has shared this image of snow in Massachusetts. That's Susan there, trying to dig her way out of the driveway, I'm guessing. So it's nasty stuff. Crap. When I mean you and I being Irish as we are, we literally have no concept of anything like that. It's
no. Jesus, no. Absolutely
not.
Although my dog would absolutely adore to find something.
Your dog would get lost there, dude.
I know, but still, she would love it. She would absolutely adore it. So she would.
We better move on because we've got a ton of stories. And
we do, yes.
You have a hard stop with yourself, so we'll keep going. Sorry, just taking a mouthful of water there.
No worries. It's Anna and Elsa, by the way. So it was.
There we go.
Yes. We knew Tammy had come through for us. Thank you, Tammy.
Super. So, Obama rejects Keystone XL bill. So for anyone who's unfamiliar, this is a bill to draw a pipeline from tar sands oil down through the lower 48, not through all of them obviously, but basically down from Canada down to the Gulf states, where the oil would be refined and taken offshore and sold on the world markets.
Yep.
And because this is a way for Canada to sell its oil on the world market, bringing it down through the US to the ports and selling it offshore. It's a deal which gives huge benefits to Canadian companies, but not so many to Americans. There'll be some jobs building the pipeline, and some jobs maintaining, estimated at being about 50 jobs maintaining the pipeline. So long term, we're looking at
Wow.
Apparently so. Apparently, I mean, it's a pipeline. There will be more jobs created from time to time when leaks spring out, and when it has to be cleaned up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
it will. It'll happen.
And it is the nastiest, dirtiest oil there. So it's and with the reduction in the price of oil, which I'm kind of at this point hoping will be long term. It makes this kind of extraction redundant. Considering the Saudis can get it out for like $10 a barrel.
Well, this is the thing. I don't see how it can meet the price point, especially whenever you have this competition with the Saudis. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense at all.
So Susan Kyoan is saying there that she's digging pathways for the dog, who's definitely perplexed at first. I can imagine just getting. I don't know what size dog Susan has, but it must be trying to dig its way up. And Phil Lowen is on as well, and he's saying they used to go on the roof with a snowblower in Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin is one of those kind of northern states that regularly gets a pretty severe winter, along with Minnesota. But actually, when I was talking to my colleague Donnie in Las Vegas this week, he's saying it's pretty cold in Wisconsin, or sorry, in Minnesota, but they haven't had any of the snowstorms that they've had on the East Coast. Nothing like that.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So they're actually a little warmer than they are on the East Coast. So they've been counting their blessings, as it were, because
I can imagine. I can imagine.
They haven't been anything like as badly hit. But we'll keep going because we have a ton of stories to get through, as I said. And if I can call up the screen share and share again.
Yes.
So this story I thought was fascinating, and I tweeted about this during the week, and I CC'd Tammy on the tweet because Tammy works for a water utility, and basically this is a water pipe that has 3 turbines built into it, and the turbines turn just on the gravitational water flow, and it's important to mention gravitational because these are gravity-fed pipes.
Yeah.
So they're not using pumps to push the water through, otherwise it would be kind of redundant. But because they're gravity-fed, the water is rushing through them, turning the turbines and generating electricity. This is, clean water, and it's not made any dirtier by having the turbines in there.
Yep.
It's potable water. And it's totally renewable. It seems like a fabulous idea, and amazing that it hasn't happened before. The company called Lucid Energy, who have come up with the idea, and have put it on the market, and they've sold it to Portland in Oregon as kind of a first customer, but. Something like this is something that should be possible to implement anywhere. I mean, we were talking before the show started in Ireland, lots of hills, particularly in somewhere like Cork, which is very hilly.
Oh yes.
Something like this would make total sense. That they talk about a 20-year power purchase agreement for renewable energy. Using what they're calling in-pipe hydropower. For this municipal water pipeline, it seems like a complete no-brainer, and I'm surprised something like this hasn't come to market before.
Oh, absolutely. But it's probably the commercials more than anything else that's probably prevented it before. So it has.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things do come down to commercials and legals. So, finally somebody might have been brave enough to actually do it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it happening in Tammy's utility next. Challenge out there to you, Tammy.
Excellent.
So Phil is saying on the tweet stream that minus 50 Fahrenheit, I'm not sure what that Fahrenheit stuff is, but minus 50 Fahrenheit with a wind chill of minus 67 was the worst he's ever experienced.
Jesus.
That sounds a bit cold.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And Tammy said she sent the article to her boss, so she's done her bit. We have to just see now if it goes on from there. Sticking with renewables, I saw that Google wants to help you buy solar panels for your house. So they've invested $300 million. No, is it 300 million? Yeah, $300 million. There it is, $300 million with Solar City for residential solar power.
Wow.
And basically, this means that roughly 25,000 new solar households and about 500 megawatts of new capacity can be built out. And Solar City are an interesting company. Basically, what they do is they subsidize putting solar panels on your roof, and they then reduce the price of your electricity bill, and then they sell the electricity onto the grid. So if you were formerly paying, say, $200 for electricity month average, you would now be paying maybe 160 instead of the 200. So your electricity price goes down, and you get free solar panels on your roof, and the Solar City, collects the rest of the money. Oh, yeah. You get a guaranteed price for your electricity as well.
Wow.
For 20 years, and then at the end of the 20 years, you've the option to buy the panels or get them or sell them to Solar City or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So it's a great model because there's no upfront cost to the homeowner.
Yes.
They're basically leasing the roof space to Solar City, and
there's a number.
Go on.
I said there's a number of those schemes actually in Northern Ireland actually at the moment, but the trick is actually it's the terms of the lease that put people off. Again, it comes down to, you know, what's the energy company getting over and above what you're getting.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those things, you know, that there's a certain level of altruism because they're in the renewable energy space, because it is going to be the future and it is going to help our you know, our children's future, but ultimately they're still a commercial venture. So what's the catch? And I think that puts a lot of people off. So it does.
It does, yeah.
But then whenever you have someone like Google, who, you know, a smaller energy company is going to want more out of the deal because they're a smaller company and they have to cover more, whereas Google's a larger company, which means the more people they get, the thinner that disparity between what they get and what you get.
And Google have their own energy company called Google Energy, who, you know, can sell directly to the grid.
Yes.
So it works well for Google. By the way, Susan Keohane. Are we saying Keohane or Keohane or?
We're not getting into this. We're not getting into this. That woman has a long memory, and come October, I'm going to get a slap if I'm not careful.
We'll go with the American pronunciation. Keohane. I know it's originally an Irish name, but
yes.
You know. She's based in the U.S. So Susan Keohane has mentioned that, you know, cutting down trees is an issue because, you know, she could do solar, but she has trees shading where the solar would go, and that's a tricky one, I guess, for some people, because, you know, trees in and of themselves are important at a planetary level, you know, for, you know, taking carbon out of the air, you know, apart from the fact that they're actually, you know, beautiful and living things. So that's a tough one to square, I guess, for some people.
We talked about it the other week. Trees are arguably the best carbon sinks around.
They are.
So you know. But then again, she could remove the trees. Equally, she could remove the trees and replace them with new trees, smaller trees that would grow over time. In which case, she would have her solar. And then she would also be contributing as a carbon sink. See, you didn't think of that.
But removing trees means they then are no longer a sink in themselves.
True.
And the smaller trees aren't moving as much, so it's not that straightforward.
True.
Some good news from the world of Islam.
Yep.
For a change. And I mean, Islam has been getting a pretty poor name for the last couple of years, at least. But Jordan, all of Jordan's 6,000 mosques are now going to be powered by solar energy. I thought this is a pretty neat story.
Oh, yeah.
So according to the Jordan Times, which is an English language story in Amman, they're going to convert all of their 6,000 mosques, and they build another, you know, 150 new mosques every year, which is pretty impressive. Yeah. And they talk about one mosque in Amman which is already installed solar, and it went from having an energy bill of $1,400 a month to being able to sell electricity back to the local power authority for 18 cents a kilowatt hour. So, you know, you got to suspect they've got some roof space.
Yeah, just a little bit.
You know, so they can convert that, and they must have some land around them as well. So I mean, that's tremendous. That's great stuff. And the more that kind of thing we see, the better. And then speaking of having kind of landmarks converting to solar, we saw this story about the Eiffel Tower being fitted with wind turbines, but the headline is a bit misleading because it's not just wind turbines. They're also putting up solar panels, and also they're putting in rainwater collectors as well, so that they can make the tower. I mean, this is an article from the Telegraph. They're talking about making it more environmentally friendly. What it doesn't mention in this article, I saw somewhere else, is that the Eiffel Tower has already been carbon neutral for several years now, because they were buying their electricity for the Eiffel Tower from a renewable energy source for the last, I don't know how long, but for the last several years at least. But they decided to take it a step further and actually install the wind and the solar and rainwater collectors as well directly on the tower itself.
It doesn't surprise me that the English Telegraph doesn't reference the fact that one of the French landmarks has been carbon neutral for quite a while. It doesn't surprise me at all. But the thing I find interesting is that when you look at the picture, the wind turbine is so sympathetic to the overall structure. It's not this big white thing hanging off the side of the Eiffel Tower. It is done very much in keeping with the existing structure. Yeah. And that's what makes it work so well. So it does. Yeah. And it's an interesting design as well. It's not your classic propeller.
Exactly. It's one of these ones that turns kind of this way instead of.
Yeah.
God, I'm not going to do that. Sorry.
It's the
that makes no sense to anyone watching.
It's the edge.
I was trying to follow on the audio because we put this audio on SoundCloud as well afterwards. That's really not going to come out. So it's a vertical helix rather than a propeller, as you say.
Is this like the snooker? You know, for those of you watching in black and white, the brown ball is beside the pink.
One of the most popular radio shows on RTE, on Irish radio, for years and years was dancing lessons on the radio. Yeah. I've forgotten the name of the show now, but yeah, it was. No idea. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
The next story. This is going to be a bit weird for a sec. So there's a weird ad showing up on this, but there's nothing I can do about that.
Is this the Huffington Post?
It's the Huffington Post. It is.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Maybe I should try and refresh the page before I share it, and see if that does anything to help.
Yep.
It did. Yes, it did. Good. Okay, we can share it now. That was going to be a little bit embarrassing. Okay, so the Huffington Post. This story is a very interesting one, I think. I saw this story break while I was in Vegas watching the IBM presentations about their new cloud data centers. And I went to the IBM page where they talked about the new data centers that IBM were rolling out. And they were rolling out 5 new data centers over the last 4 months, and there was not one single mention in the release of renewable energy.
Yeah.
And I talked to IBM executives afterwards, and none of them could provide me any details about renewables. And when you go to IBM's site, as I did a couple of weeks ago, looking into this, they give absolutely no details about the energy or emissions of their cloud, and it's done on purpose, which is despicable, frankly, considering they've had such a good record up to now on transparency. The opposite of that is this announcement. And it comes, as I said, from Apple, and it's about their 2 new data centers. And we talked about some of the renewable stuff just a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely.
This builds on that, and basically they've announced 2 new data centers where they're spending 1.7 billion euros.
Jesus.
I mean, that's huge, obviously. 1.7 billion euros to build 2 data centers in Europe that would be entirely powered by renewable energy, and obviously was going to create some jobs.
Yeah.
The 2 data centers are going to be in Ireland and Denmark, and they'll be for things like the iTunes Store, the App Store, iMessage, Maps, and Siri.
Yeah.
For customers across Europe. And that's important because it's not just the fact that they will be renewably powered. I mean, that's fantastic. That's great. And, you know, Apple are doing this. I mean, Apple don't need to make them renewably powered.
No.
They could just as easily power them with coal. But they've decided to take this stance. They hired in, as we said a couple of weeks ago, Lisa Jackson, former head of the EPA, to be their VP for sustainability, reporting directly to Tim Cook. They do all this transparency stuff. So they've obviously decided that they're going to chase this down.
Yeah.
And these 2 data centers, so they're renewably powered, but also because they are based in Ireland and Denmark, and they're serving the European market, they will have the whole data privacy thing there, so that now if some of my iMessages are, you know, hosted out of Ireland or hosted out of Denmark, and the NSA are looking for them, because, you know, the NSA are always looking for my stuff, because, you know, I'm such a
you're a questionable character, Tom. Questionable.
So, you know, if anyone based in Europe has stuff going through Apple's data centers and the NSA come after them, Apple can just say, look, not on US soil, European data centers, and it's all encrypted anyway, so there's nothing we can do. You know, so it gives a level of comfort to people based in Europe.
Yeah.
And also, this is a strategy which is also pursued by IBM. IBM's strategy around cloud is to go for lots of data centers, lots of smaller sized data centers which are regionally specific.
Yes.
And Apple's are going for larger ones which are regionally specific. I think just for economies of scale, because they have one already in Germany, and now they'll have one in Ireland and Denmark as well. And they'll have the ones in the US as well, and they'll probably go for Australasia and Asia at some point in the future. So, you know, kudos. It's an amazing announcement.
Absolutely, and the thing that went through my head and my childish thought was there's going to be one less field in Athenry at the end of this, but.
Athenry is where it's been based. Actually, my father's birthplace.
Yes, exactly.
For anyone who doesn't know what Chris is going on about, there's a famous song called "The Fields of Athenry," and there's going to be a couple of less fields in Athenry.
Exactly, but the thing that I find interesting was the fact that even though it's in Ireland, last year we saw a data privacy case between Microsoft and the US government where they were trying to get emails that were hosted on a Hotmail server in Dublin.
And that's still ongoing.
It is. It's still ongoing. So I find it interesting. Now, obviously, Apple has a long history of operations in Ireland, so it doesn't surprise me that they've defaulted to Ireland. It's been a good place for them for numerous business reasons that we probably shouldn't say out loud on a internet broadcast.
Sure, but somebody mentioned that as well. I put this up on Facebook, and somebody mentioned that, you know, this is all about tax, and I said, yeah, well, what about Denmark?
Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah, I think it's just one of those things that Ireland is it's a friendly place for high tech industry, and Apple has a track record in Ireland.
There's more than that. So the other thing, and Carolyn Lillington mentioned this in an article in the Times during the week. It's another factor. It's not the overarching factor, and neither is the taxation. You know, these are all factors that led to it.
Oh, yeah.
But for companies who have their European headquarters in a particular country, that's where their data regulation is then based.
Yes.
So if your headquarters is in Ireland, that's where your data regulations are then based out of for all of Europe. So for any multinational companies, if they headquarter in the UK, then they are obliged to the UK regulations. If they're headquarters in France, it's the French regulations. If they're headquartered in Ireland, it's the Irish regulations. And
Right.
the Irish Data Commissioner has, I mean,
That's kicked ass.
a significant company, or sorry, a significant number of the multinational technology companies have their headquarters in Ireland, including Facebook, Google, Amazon, and several others.
You mean
and Apple as well.
headquarters? You're talking about EMEA headquarters?
Yes, sorry, EMEA headquarters. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the Irish Data Commissioner has kicked ass in several large cases over the last 5 years. Facebook, Google, Microsoft, they've all been taken to task by the Irish Data Commissioner and left complete. And whenever you look at, from my point of view in the UK, the UK Information Commission Officer is toothless and useless.
Right.
Doesn't do anything.
Which kind of begs the question why they didn't go there.
Well, because they actually they actually do care about data privacy. We know about their canary clause in their legal paper, in their legal frameworks and things like that. Apple are a company that does care about its customers and their data privacy. So I see it as being a good thing.
Yeah, likewise. We'll move on to comms, because a couple of quick stories there we'll just breeze through. The first story there is, we're all trying to get 4G anytime we go out now, and standing up in chairs and holding the phones at the top of our arms so that we try and find a 4G signal somewhere instead of 3G because it's that much faster. But now researchers looking into the next generation, 5G, have managed to get 1 terabyte of data down to mobile devices. I mean,
that's insane.
It's insane, isn't it? It's pretty awesome. I mean, they talk about Samsung, and we mentioned the story a few weeks back. Samsung getting 7.5 gig down to the phone, and I thought that was pretty intense. But going from 7.5 gig to a terabit, that's roll on 5G. That's all I can say. That'll be fantastic, even when it comes. But it will come. Maybe we won't get 1 terabyte to the phone, but if it's theoretically possible, we might get a gig to the phone, or similar. So all looking incredibly good. And then the big story in the comms scene that broke this week was just yesterday. The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission in the US, voted for net neutrality, and the headline says a ban on paid fast lanes in Title II. So now internet providers are common carriers. They're basically being
they're utilities.
Like utilities, exactly, and that's good. I mean, this is going to be appealed, but frankly, it's likely to be upheld. Yeah. So it's tremendous news for the US.
Well, I think the US is the guiding market. For right or for wrong, it is the guiding market. So
hopefully the EU will follow suit.
Well, I think is there even a question in the EU? I know the previous sort of information commissioner in the EU, the Portuguese lady, was, I think she was she Portuguese or Spanish? I think she was definitely from the Iberian side, but she was the one responsible for driving down mobile tariffs across the EU, and
right.
She was such a proponent and supporter of good value,
consumer-friendly,
consumer-friendly telecoms. So I don't even think this is even a question in the EU at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right. I see Susan. We'll ignore Susan's surname. I see. I see Susan has a question there in the tweet stream saying, "Does that mean the Marriott can now throttle us even faster?" Get the dig in there, Susan. In fairness to the Marriott, they reversed that idea. They had been throttling users,
blocking them.
Yeah, was it blocking or throttling? I'm not sure.
It was blocking. It was
Blocking.
so your MiFi device that you and your Karma or your hedonism device. So the MiFi, they were actually blocking the Wi-Fi signals. So they were. So
I remember they had a justification for it at the time that I read, and it actually I can't remember what the justification was now, but when I read it, it actually seemed to make sense.
It was around.
It was on security. It was on security.
Well, there were two objections. One was security, because having open MiFi devices at conferences and things like that, which is what they were saying. This isn't for rooms, it's actually for conferences. If you have open Wi-Fi or MiFi facilities, you could be jumping onto anybody's device. We want to protect you, so we have the certified device, Marriott Conference Wi-Fi, and you should use that. It's a plausible enough explanation. You and I go to enough conferences to know that there are Wi-Fi devices everywhere, and then there's the conference Wi-Fi. Yeah. I think one of my favorite ones is Derek Lalanka, who calls his MiFi, what is it, the FBI van outside, and things like that. But you could be jumping on anything. So it does make sense, but still, at the end of the day, it was putting more money in their pocket, and that was the thing that people hated about it.
True. We'll push on, because, like I say, ton of stories, 30 stories, and shag all the time. So I thought there was a couple of interesting stories coming out of Microsoft. So the first one I saw was that Microsoft have released this special staff notebook for education, which enables school staff collaboration. So basically, for people who use OneNote, and OneNote is kind of Microsoft's equivalent of Evernote.
Yes.
And you can create your own notebooks in there. So what Microsoft have done is they've basically released a template notebook for teachers, and it has permissions built into it, and it allows teachers to share with maybe the principal, and also to share with students, with the appropriate permission built into it, and also to do kind of grading and that kind of thing. So it seems like a very nice idea for anyone who's to check out, at least for anyone who's in education. And OneNote has been getting a lot of attention recently on the Microsoft front ever since Satya Nadella took over. He's been pushing OneNote, making it more open, making it free on all devices, on all platforms. So this seems to be a very nice step forward. Another education-based story that I saw was again Microsoft-based, and it was that Microsoft is now letting students globally download. Well, they're letting them check for Office eligibility. I guess the headline there is, and it's important to say that it's a check. Yeah. Because what the story says, and it's true enough, because I've had it tested. If you have an email address associated with an educational institute, so say you've got chris@universityofbelfast.com. Yeah. You can apply for free Office, and this is desktop version Office. This isn't mobile Office. It's not tablet Office. This is desktop Office, and it can be Mac or PC. It doesn't matter. So what you do is you go to them and you say, look, this is my email address, and it's associated with this educational institute, and they check it out. And if it checks out, then they come back to you and say, okay, you're clear to go. Download it, and it's all yours, and it's free. Yeah. So again, this is Microsoft making a huge push into education, and because you then, if you do download it and you do start using it, you've got the Office 365 version, which is online. Yeah. And you've got the mobile devices and the tablet versions, plus OneNote, plus all these kind of other things, and suddenly you find yourself locked into the Microsoft ecosystem, which for now it seems quite good. Yeah, it's gotten a lot better in the last 12 months.
Oh yeah, no, it is. Microsoft have undergone a massive corporate rehabilitation. So they have. They've gone through a massive corporate rehabilitation, and fair play to them for doing it. It's obviously been a painful lesson for them, but
Yeah.
but OneNote is one of those applications it's like a gateway drug. It is a very, very good, very ubiquitous little app, the same way Evernote is.
Yeah. And the way it plugs into OneDrive,
yeah,
it's very nice as well. And if you have it, because it's available for iOS as well as desktop, and it can use iCloud as well as OneDrive or Dropbox. You know, you've got all your major clouds and Box as well. So it covers all your major clouds, so you can store stuff anywhere. And because it has OneDrive built in natively, and you get 30 gigs free with OneDrive, as we've discussed before. I mean, you know, it just makes it. They're taking away barriers, which is, you know, it makes a ton of sense.
exactly.
I mean, it's all about, and that's what business should be. It's all about making it easier for the customer to give you money.
Well, it's a direct.
Easier to use your service.
Well, but it's the direct antithesis to the Apple ecosystem. You know, and that's one of the, you know, Apple is very easy to use.
Yep.
But it is difficult to do things across multiple platforms.
It's not anymore. So now,
but it is.
This was announced during the week, but iWork, the suite of iWork applications, similar to Office, is now open to anyone to use on any device. You don't need an Apple device.
Oh, no, that's pretty good, actually. Okay, I'll take a step back. If you can give me another example, I'll take 2 steps back.
Well, so if you sign up for iWork,
yes,
and you get it free, obviously.
Yeah.
No matter what device you have, you also get a free gig of iCloud storage.
Okay.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, 1 gig, but and I don't use iWork enough to know this for sure, but I'm about 80% sure you can also use the likes of Dropbox.
Yeah.
With iWork.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have your 5 gigs or whatever. So someone in the tweet stream there can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm pretty sure you can use iWork with at least Dropbox, if not some of the others. Yeah. What else? We're getting a couple of comments there from Phil. Phil's after going mad in the tweet stream. Until someone messes up the authorizations and opens up grades for all to see. Yeah. That's an accident waiting to happen, no doubt. And Apple Works. Yeah, we just mentioned that. So the Apple system, as you say, it's easy to use, and it's now easier to get into. Yeah. Previously, you had to have an Apple device to get into this ecosystem, but no more. They've taken that barrier away. So, I think that wouldn't have happened if Satya Nadella hadn't opened his ecosystem.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So kudos. I mean, if you told me 12 months ago I'd have been praising Microsoft on every show I was running, I would have been laughing. It's every week, they're coming out with stuff that I have to praise because they're doing it well. It's absolutely kudos. Another nice one, and I don't know if you saw this, but this thing called Photomath.
Yes.
This is an iOS app which has now, and the story is the fact that it's been brought to Android. Yeah. So it's now iOS Android. But I downloaded it and I tried it.
Oh.
And it is awesome. It's as good, if not better, than they say in the article. I could not believe it. I got out a second level maths book. And I opened up the app and I pointed it at all the questions, and it's instant. There's no lag at all.
Fabulous.
As soon as you point it at the equation, it pops up the answer, and you just hit the steps link underneath it, and it gives you all the steps.
Fabulous.
To solve the equation.
See, all I can think of is the Big Bang Theory. The
Go on.
episode,
Oh yeah, and
the episode of The Big Bang Theory where they're doing this app.
there's actually in the article itself, there's a
Yeah.
video of the guys pitching this at TechCrunch,
Oh,
and
fabulous.
one of the screenshots in it is that episode. They literally have the one with Howie there with his camera in front of the whiteboard of equations. So, yeah, no, they reference the Big Bang Theory in it, all right. So that's pretty cool. But it's amazing.
Excellent.
It's really good. Now the thing about it is, you just know that every second level kid who hears about this is going to download it onto their phone immediately,
Yeah.
and every time they get their homework, they're going to point the phone at the homework, hit steps, and just start transcribing the steps into their homework journal. And go, oh, look, I got it all right.
Yeah.
No idea how I did it, but
Do you know? Actually, I remember really, really clearly in P4. I had a Spectrum 48K, and I was doing my maths homework on the 48K. But the thing about it was we hadn't learned decimals or negative numbers, so I did the homework on my calculator program on the Spectrum, and basically got most of it wrong, because it was doing stuff that I had. I hadn't been taught yet, so the teacher obviously knew that I was using some form of calculating device, and so pretty much marked everything wrong, and I was devastated. I was devastated. Mrs. King was my P4 teacher. Oh, I was devastated. Never used a calculator since.
well, I guess you learned a lesson. And
Oh yes, I certainly did.
I guess our kids are going to have to learn it the hard way too. We'll plow on.
Yep.
And we're heading into the kind of health world
yes.
now. And I thought this was an interesting one. It's US only for now, but they are going to start rolling it out. Facebook have rolled out new tools to help prevent suicides. And basically, this is a very straightforward one. It's just if you see in somebody's Facebook posts something that you think is a little bit worrisome, you can then flag the content. You can go into the kind of drop-down arrow in the top right-hand side of every post. You can go into that and alert Facebook and say, look, maybe you want to take a look at this. I think that I think this guy is 10 steps away from the edge of the ledge. Maybe you want to do something about it. So you can flag it as worrisome, and then something might get done about it.
That's
nothing might get done about it. It might help save somebody's life, and if it even saves one or two lives, fantastic, because there have been a lot of people who have posted on the likes of Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and then gone and taken that final step, which is not reversible. So this is a very positive thing, I think, out of Facebook. And as I say, it's US only for now, but it won't be long. You got to think before they make it more global than that.
I think again, it's probably coming down to legal frameworks more than anything else.
Absolutely.
It's one of those things, and social media and Facebook specifically does get a good kicking over what is their implicit responsibility for stuff. I do think some of it is unfair, but this is a good step. It's a good step, and it's one that should be applauded for.
Yeah, Phil is correcting me on the tweet stream, saying that he can only find iCloud storage within iWork. But okay, no more I can say about that. So it looks like I was wrong on that one.
Yeah.
But again, I suspect that's something that'll come with more and more development of these apps.
Yeah. Sue has pointed out that the suicide thing could be used for abuse, as in the thing about swatting, sending SWAT teams to people's houses. So you could actually turn it on its head and use it for abuse, and absolutely. But I think even if it saves one person's life, that's enough.
I think it's a little bit different in this case, because what you're doing is you're reporting a post, and saying this post looks a bit worrisome. So then you're going to get somebody reading the post to see, is it actually worrisome, and should we do something about it?
Yeah.
As opposed to the SWAT teams who just go in.
Yeah.
Without doing any checking.
That's scary. That's really scary. I've seen the video of one of them, and it was just, no,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
scary.
yeah, yeah. Likewise. Okay, we'll keep going. And the next one I saw in this kind of space is coming from the Connect for Windows blog. And basically, this is a nurse called Molly,
I'm
who is
Molly.
she's a virtual nurse.
Yes.
Doesn't actually exist. This is an avatar. And basically what it is it's a form of telemedicine, and it's using this thing called Sensely, which is a new app to bring a human face to telemedicine. Basically, you use the Windows-powered nurse avatar, and this Molly asks you your symptoms, uses the Connect to ask you, to move your arm up as high as you can, if it's something to do with your arm or your shoulder, and monitors and says, oh, you were able to raise it a little higher yesterday, maybe you need to do this, or move your leg this way, oh, you were able to do better yesterday, or you were able to do worse yesterday, so you're improving, or whatever. So it's basically an AI, an artificial intelligence-based avatar using telemedicine and medicine in the background, or a medical database in the background, to reduce the need to go to medical centers. So it's it's in development, and they've done a lot of analyses on it and the solutions and the outcomes, and it seems to be doing quite well. What we're seeing here is that Sensely reduced patient calls by 28% and freed up nearly a fifth of the day for clinicians involved in the program. Yeah. So it's not a shipping product yet. It's still in development, but it looks to be going the right direction.
Yeah. It's obviously as our generation is getting older, and we obviously have a much greater affinity for technology and this type of thing. It's gonna be good for us.
Yeah.
So it is. And we did joke earlier on that I'm surprised it's not backed by Watson. You never know, maybe at some point. IBM and Microsoft do play well together every now and again. But I think I when I was at the Cliff House Hotel in Cork a couple of years ago, I met a doctor who was doing this type of stuff only with a little robot and doing telemedicine that way, and trying to break that market. But it's coming. There's no doubt about it, and it is here in many respects. I think it's fantastic. Being able to do. We talked about the South American place in the mountains where
yes.
they use crowds.
Put up their own cell towers. Yeah,
they put up their own cell towers, and this access to telemedicine in this way would be phenomenal for them. Phenomenal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll push on, because I saw this other story which was very cute, and it was about this blind man who.
Yes.
Yeah, it was cool, wasn't it? They've fitted him with. I don't know how to explain it. It's basically he has this thing called retinitis pigmentosa, which means he has been blind for the last 10 years of his life and hasn't seen his wife for that length of time. And what they've done is they've hooked up something basically to his optic nerve, and they're pumping images into his optic nerve, which, in fairness, are still described as very crude.
Yes.
So it's there's a video showing it here, and he gets all emotional and stuff because like it says in the headline, for the first time in 10 years, he actually gets to see his wife, and
10
years. Yeah, and it's been developed by the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah.
And the as it says here, the special glasses he wears bypasses his retina entirely, passing light directly to his optic nerve. So part of it lies inside his eye, surgically implanted, and the light is fed information by a camera in the center of the prosthetic. So this is not something that you walk in and get fitted and walk out. There's a surgical aspect to it, and it does interfere. Well, not interfere. It does take over,
part of the body.
Part of the body, the feeding to your optic nerve. So it's not trivial. But for people who have lost their sight, I don't know, is this specific to retinitis pigmentosa? I don't know, it's just for that condition. But even if it's just for people who have that illness, who have lost their sight, this is huge. It's still very basic. It's still very crude. The image is still very pixelated, and if you watch the video, you will see it's incredibly pixelated. But any of these things, the technology changes so fast that you got to think in 5-10 years, someone with something like this, it'll change their lives completely.
Well, if from all the things that I've seen and dealt with or seen and read, it's that transition from to create the impulses that the optic nerve is actually going to understand and the brain is going to understand, and once you have that cracked, then everything else will feed from there, and they obviously have cracked this to quite an amazing and astonishing degree. Once you actually get the resolution and the fineness in it, that is just going to be absolutely amazing. So it is absolutely fabulous, and it was such a great video. It really was. It really is.
Yeah.
Fabulous. It reminds me of the one with the kid with the cochlear implant as well.
That's right. For the first time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
so powerful.
So changing topics entirely and talking about enterprise.
Yeah.
Really sexy stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
So apparently iOS has grown to 73% of the enterprise share as a platform for mobility. Android has dropped to 25% and Windows stays flat at 1%. There are no figures for BlackBerry because they use a different way of activating the devices. So of those, you got to think BlackBerry's going to be in the single digits anyway.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, iOS is at 73%, and that's up, I think, 4%. Android has dropped 4%, 25%, and Windows there. So iOS is a huge, huge part. And you've got to think the IBM partnership did not hurt that at all, quite the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
And to counter that, then this story came out during the week. Android for Work. Google has decided to try and secure the 1+ billion bring your own devices. So basically, Google have come out with this new thing, Android for Work, which is a more enterprise-ready version of Android, where the information is encrypted and you can do it on an application by application level. And this has been possible before, but you needed third-party software to do it for Android. Whereas now you can do it within Android and do it on a user account by user account and an application by application level. You can decide what applications people can use, and you can have them completely encrypted.
Yeah,
it's sandboxed as well.
MDM, it's mobile device management.
We
all know that SAP have their own version of it. I think it's kind of taken the next logical step from the BlackBerry, the BlackBerry 10, where they had a work sandbox and a personal sandbox that you could flick across between them. By doing this at an app level, I think it makes slightly more sense. So it does.
I think so.
But it
may help up those numbers that 25% for Android may start crawling back up again. Right? I mean, they dropped 4% in the last. Now that 4% drop in the last quarter was down to the fact that Apple released the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus.
Yeah.
Because that got huge adoption, mostly the 6, but also the 6 Plus.
So, the 6 Plus is a great. We've talked about this before. You have the 6 Plus.
Yeah.
It is a lovely device. So
I couldn't have managed in Vegas this week without it. It was incredible.
Yeah.
The battery life was just phenomenal. I had a spare battery with me just in case, but I didn't need to use it at any point.
Yeah.
I mean, the last day was Tuesday, so I got up on Tuesday around 8 a.m.
Yeah.
a little before, but I unplugged the phone around 8 a.m. So
Yeah.
I actually woke up before 6, but I unplugged the phone at around 8 a.m.
Uh-huh.
And I spent the whole day in meetings.
Yeah.
At 8 p.m. I went to the airport.
Yeah.
Well, actually, 8 p.m. I got on the plane. I went to the airport around 6 p.m.
Yeah.
I got on the plane around 8 p.m. Flew to London.
Yep.
Arrived in London 3 p.m. the following afternoon, and the phone was still charged. I still had like 60% battery life in the phone.
That is astonishing.
Now, in fairness, it was on airplane mode while I was on the plane, so that doesn't use a lot of battery. But from the 8 a.m. unplug to 8 p.m. getting on the plane and sticking it on airplane mode, it had still 60% of battery left.
That's brilliant.
So
absolutely phenomenal.
Tremendous, and I wasn't skipping on the phone. I wasn't skipping on phone use while I was there.
No, so definitely not.
Because I had a battery in case I needed it. So I had a fallback. So no, tremendous, absolutely tremendous. We'll push on because I know you're tight for time. You've a pretty hard stop.
Let's keep going.
Yeah. So this e-payments.
Yes.
Visa is launching. I better minimize this because the headline's a bit cut off there. Visa is launching tokenization in Europe. So from April, it's saying the mobile phone companies in Europe will be able to do Apple Pay, basically. So it was launched in the US, and I think Canada can do it as well. And it's been huge there. But now it'll be able to come to Europe as well, and this is something I've been chomping at the bit for a while. I really wanted to do this because I'm tired of bringing cards everywhere, and this will make it that much easier. And not alone then is there Apple Pay, but Google have launched Android, or Google are going to launch Android Pay in May, which is is going to be the Android version of Apple Pay, which has a load of APIs open as well, so that developers can build Android Pay into their applications. So basically, there was Google Wallet before now, but it never really took off. The e-payments system, and one of the reasons Google didn't take off was because of Google's attitude to the banks.
Yeah.
Google, basically told the banks, "You're redundant. We don't need you anymore. We've got this," and of course that got the banks' backs up.
Oh, absolutely.
Said, stuff you, we're not going to support it.
Yeah.
And it didn't really take off. Whereas Apple took a partnership approach to the banks, and they keep every month they announce the next few hundred banks that have signed up to use it.
Yeah.
And it as a result, it has lifted everyone else with it. So now e-payments, which as you mentioned in the chat we had beforehand, has been around for years.
Oh, yeah.
But has never really taken off. But since Apple came in and have lifted it, now we're seeing both sides coming up. So.
Well, I think there, as we said in the chat earlier on, Apple have done two things. They finally embraced near-field communication as opposed to the standard they had been working on. The second thing is that Apple has never abused its position or as a wallet or as a keeper of credit card information. They have taken that responsibility very, very seriously.
And in fact, in that release about Android Pay, it does say that information will be used to target ads. Yeah,
well, there you go. You see that's Apple wouldn't do that, and
in fact, Apple say that they don't want that information. They don't want to know that information. That sales information for any. I mean, they're not in the ad serving business. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I actually think the Apple Pay is for the consumer a better bet.
Yep.
I do. I agree. I do like Google and all the rest of it, but there's just there are things that they want to do with your information that I'm just not comfortable with.
Yeah, they have too many conflicts of interest in this space.
They do massively. So yeah.
We'll go on into the security area.
Oh,
because
yes.
there was a couple of interesting stories came out there. So the first one was this one, that Google are handing out what they call infinity $1 million to hackers who break into Google Chrome. And of course, that's a complete clickbait headline. No one is going to get infinity $1 million. But what? Hang on, I'll put you up on the screen there. Do that again.
My Dr. Evil. $1 billion.
So basically, what the story is saying is that they had competitions before.
Yeah.
For people, if you came up with a hack, a way of breaking into Chrome, you could earn some money for doing so. And they ran a competition every year. And now, instead of doing it one competition every year, it's a perpetual thing. So if you find a crack, you submit it, and then you get money if it's perceived to be an actual crack that they have to fix, a significant one.
Mm.
And the amount you can get can be anything from like $500 up to 50,000 or something like that. So it's not insignificant.
No.
So one of the cool things about this is this makes Chrome and its derivatives that bit much more secure, because you have lots of people trying to break it all the time and getting financial rewards if they do actually break it. So they're incented to try and break it all the time. So you get good actors, as opposed to just the bad actors, trying to break it and reporting those breaks so that it can then be subsequently fixed.
Well, it breaks confirmation bias, as we said.
Exactly.
That's a good thing.
Exactly. No, that's hugely important, because if you're developing this kind of stuff yourself, it's very hard to test for breaks in it. Now, I know in large organizations, the testing and the development are different organizations, so there should be walls between them. But you still, it's still better to have outside people doing this kind of thing. And when you do it in this kind of way, it's done cheaply as well, because these are not people you have on the payroll.
Yeah.
So you only pay them when they find a break. So it works really, really well. And Facebook are doing a similar thing. A lot of the large organizations now have these kind of bounties out there, so that they get people coming in from outside. So Facebook as well are doing it. And Facebook paid 321 security researchers last year, 1.3 million, which was less than the year before. And they're now adding in Oculus and Moves to the companies they brought in to the bug bounty program. So it's not just Google, it's Facebook, and lots of others are doing this kind of thing as well. And sticking with security, we see that Mozilla Firefox 36 was released during the week, and it brings in HTTP2, which we talked about last week, which is a faster version of HTTP. So now Chrome and Firefox are supporting it, but it also does things like it uses a stronger version of TLS.
TLS, yes.
TLS. I nearly lost it there for a second. So yeah, it's TLS, and it doesn't support TLS 1024 anymore, so it has to be, I presume it's 2056 is the next version up from that. So it requires higher security, and it fixes a few bugs as well. And it's because it supports HTTP2. It's also faster on sites which are running HTTP2.
Is it? Well, it says security can beefed up after support was dropped for 1024 RSA security keys and certificates. So, it's either TLS or SSL. It doesn't state which one of these. Like certificates to me is SSL,
right,
as opposed to TLS. But TLS is transport layer sockets or something.
That's
so
right.
I don't know. Yeah, showing our ignorance possibly.
Ignorance of service. There we go.
I have to send you something. Actually, it's a clip of these people trying to define whether the moon is a planet or a star. It's the most mind-blowing. It was on one of the American shopping channels. It is honestly, it is one of the most mind-blowingly stupid things I have ever seen. I will send it to you, and you can put it in the links after the show as an addendum.
Tremendous. We'll do. We have smartwatches.
Oh yes.
So this is important for a number of reasons. There were a couple of big announcements this week, and we're almost through them. I'll rush through them. So Apple announced their big media event for March 9th. and they put spring forward, which of course is a reference to the American terminology, spring forward, fall back, so that you know when to put the clock forward and back. So there's going to be a lot of talk about smartwatches in the next couple of weeks. Microsoft have their own smartwatch called the Band, and in fairness, while it got panned in its initial reviews, they keep improving it.
Yeah.
Again, they've improved it some more in the last week. They've rolled out new functionality for it. Plus, they've launched their health website, which it feeds into.
See, I love this. I love the Band because the sensors on it, the price point for the sensors that you actually get is phenomenal. You know, it's something like it has 12 different sensors, and most of the other, I think, have between 6 and 8.
And it's a slightly different form factor as well, in that it's on the inside of the wrist, not the outside.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's more health than smartwatch, but it's both. It's both. It's one of these crossover devices. The Pebble, which is more smartwatch than health, has been around for about 7 years now. I didn't realize that, but their latest, their latest one, the Pebble Time, they released it on Kickstarter on the 24th of February. And within less than 24 hours, they'd smashed through their $500,000 goal to go up to about $6.5 million, according to the headline here. But when I checked it earlier on today, it had already broken 11 million.
That's we talked about this again before the show. Kickstarter is becoming incredibly useful for companies with products who don't want to go for Series A or Series B funding and give away part of the equity in the company. But as you rightly pointed out, doing a successful Kickstarter is really, really hard. And when you get it right,
you have to put a huge amount of work into it. And in fact, for anyone who's interested, there's an IBM distinguished engineer called Lisa Secat DeLuca. And Secat is S-E-C-A-T, Lisa Secat DeLuca. And Lisa spoke at our Monktoberfest event last October in Maine on this very topic. She did a successful Kickstarter campaign around toys for kids, teaching them about computers and binary and stuff like that. Really, really cute, really cool stuff. A great talk. But she talked about a lot of her own experiences and gave a lot of really good advice. So if you're interested in how to set up a Kickstarter and the complexities involved, and there are a lot of them which are not obvious, I would suggest Googling that talk. And if anyone needs to find it, send me an email if you can't find it. It should be very easy to find. Lisa Secat DeLuca, crowdfunding, Kickstarter, whatever, and you'll find it very quickly. But if you have any trouble finding it, send me a mail and I'll point you to it directly. So if anyone needs to know that, that's really good. This one, the Pebble one, the Pebble seems like the Pebble smartwatches are really cool, and they are smartwatches more than health devices. But these ones, the battery in them lasts about 7 days. So they've got a significant battery life. Their color, they're always on because they're kind of e-ink as opposed to OLED or anything like that. So like an Amazon Kindle, they're e-ink. And they've got a new and they're also Android or iOS, so they'll play nicely with any OS as opposed to most of the Samsung devices, which are Samsung only. So of smartwatches out there, they are one of the best. And don't take my word for it, but I came across this Gizmodo article, which reviews all of the current smartwatches which are out there at the moment. Fabulous. And including an update on the 24th after the Pebble smartwatch was launched, and they test all of them and they rank them, and the Pebble Steel is given the best smartwatch overall, which was the predecessor to the now Time, and then it goes through the most stylish. And then the best price, Pebble wins that. Then the Pebble Time is there at the top of that one, and the bases and the LGs and so on and so on and so on. And it gives details for any and all of the major smartwatches that are out there at the moment. It's a very long article. It goes down and down and down.
It really does.
A lot of those are comments. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
But there you go. So there's updates there. So you've got Agent Smartwatch, Phosphor, Moda, Leica, HP, Arcos, iWatch, Citizen. A lot of ones I've never heard of.
Yeah.
So it's very comprehensive. Anyone interested in smartwatches, this is an article to have a quick look at. And the last one, because I know you're in a hurry, Chris.
Yeah. No.
Harley Davidson.
Yes.
Electric
motorcycles. For this one.
Yeah. Wow. We talked about it on the show before. They launched them in the US. They're still not for sale. This is what they're doing is they're sending them around the world. They sent them around the US first, and then they're sending them around Europe to gauge people's interest in them to see if they would be a viable product. Because Harley have a name for making beautiful bikes, but making petrol bikes.
Yeah.
Which are really loud, big engines, and you get a very distinctive sound. Well, I'm not able to do it. I'm not able to do it. You know what I mean?
I do.
They've got a very distinctive sound, and these electric ones have a very distinctive sound as well, but it's extremely different to any Harley bike that's come before. So it's a huge departure for them, and I think it's a very brave move on their part, but I think it's also a very necessary move on their part because the world is heading towards electric vehicles and electric transport, and I think kudos to them. They're one of the only big bike manufacturers to come out with a play like this and to chase it down and to do it in this way where they're gauging consumer feedback.
Yeah.
And the feedback seems to have been overwhelmingly positive, according to the article, anyway. And I'm not surprised. Go on.
Who else could do this? Who else should be first to create an electric bike? You have.
There are a number of them out there. Even Yamaha have. I mean, the ones that have come out to date, the main ones that have come out to date have been, like Tesla. They have been people who've come in from scratch.
Yeah.
But Yamaha have come out and made one as well, as far as I know. So there've been one or two of the big players dip their toes in the water. But the Harley one. I mean, first of all, Harley are kind of left field for this.
Yeah.
They're the last
people. It's a bit like Hummer. It'll be a bit like Hummer coming out with an electric vehicle.
Exactly. That's the kind of thing, really. And for them to do it, it's a brave move on their part, and I think they're doing it intelligently. They've as I say, they're looking for feedback on it because they're saying to themselves, we don't know this space.
Yeah.
So let's go out there and ask people what it is they'd like from it. And they came up with these prototype bikes, which they're trialing around the place, and like I said, getting good feedback on.
Couldn't fault it at all. And the thing about it is it opens them up to an entirely new market as well.
Yeah.
So it does.
Yeah.
And do you know the best thing about it is actually have you ever seen the video of the guy in the Tesla S or the Roadster who basically goes from 0 to 60? Yeah. And he has about 6 or 7 people in the car.
That's right. There's been a
the surprise where he floors it and it just takes off. Can you imagine that on a Harley?
Yeah.
That would just be awesome.
Yeah.
Direct immediate power to your back wheel. Yeah. And away you go.
Hopefully keeping the front wheel on the ground.
Well, yes, hopefully. hopefully. So
and Phil said BMW might be doing it as well in comments. So there might be a BMW electric bike out there. I'm not sure.
That'll be good.
Yeah. Okay, look, that's the last story. You had a hard stop, so we rushed to get as many done as possible in time. We did, and we hit every story.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, and congratulations on number 50. Thank you for having me, and
thank you.
Have a great weekend. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. All the best. Bye.